Hi, and welcome to A Punk with Toys. My name is Lawrence, and today we're going to be taking a look at the G.I. Joe, a real American hero, a classic review of the APC, the Amphibious Personnel Carrier. No, APC does not stand for Acolyte Protection Company. I know it was agency, but it's a C, so anyway, they could have branched out, all right? Let's be honest. Farouk and Bradshaw could have made a company, not just an agency. Anyway, enough of the wrestling terms. We're gonna take a look at this. This is not my original, although my original is downstairs. This is one that I got off a friend of mine. Not well, I guess close to 10 years ago. This one is in much better condition, as mine actually has my name on the canopies. I have two of them written up top, and I also don't have the what is it called? The belts that go across it. So anyway, we're going to take a look at this. This is one of the actual vehicles that floated, all right? So not only could you play with it in the dirt, in the mud, in the grass, it also floated so you could play with it in the bathtub, the pool, or anything like this. This was also a carrier, so it has a handle right here, so you can actually hold all the figures in, and in theory, the pegs on the pegs for the feet, along with the seat belts, which I do have in here, would keep them in place. But anyway, we're gonna take a look at this, go over the design. I absolutely love this thing. Again, it is one of those weird vehicles that it's not like the greatest vehicle that you think back and it's like, oh my god, I had to play with the APC. It has like one gun up here that just turned back and forth, and like it doesn't even go up and down. So it's like a lot of modern stuff that's made today. But again, this was a lot of fun, and yeah, you could just cram so many figures in this. So anyway, let's take a look at it. But before we do, you like this type of content, you like seeing old vehicles that maybe you had a story of. Maybe you had this and this was how you carried all your toys to grandma and grandpa's. Take a second, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I drop a classic review. Alright, so here we go. This is the G.I. Joe, a real American hero, APC. And I love this vehicle. It is such a plain Jane vehicle in many ways, but it is one that actually floats. This and the Whale, the hovercraft, were the only two vehicles that floated and you didn't have to worry about them sinking. Again, this is not my original. My original ones are actually downstairs. This one is in much better condition. So let's take a look at everything on the outside and then get onto the inside. So looking at the front here, you can see through these windows. It is very difficult because they are tinted, but you can actually see right there. I see that line right through it. That is actually one of the, that's actually the seat belts that most people don't have. So looking at the front here, you get some little latches so you can open this up. This is probably more than anything, looking at this looking at this realistically, is probably the snorkel. So if you don't know, a lot of four-wheel drive vehicles will have a snorkel. This way the air intake is way higher, so when they are going through the water, it doesn't suck water into the engine. That's probably what this is. You can see the little latches, so you can open this up and probably access the engine compartment just a little bit. I'm not sure what this is. This actually looks like it might be, you know, I have no idea. It kind of looks like those strips that the police use to stop cars. Here's another piece. This may be part of the snorkel. I'm not exactly sure, to be 100% honest. All right, and here we just got a little bit of the electronics. Got some tubes running through here. Little rivets, again, adding a lot to the depth and the detail. We got the United States across it. All right, this is the 7th transport. That's interesting. I never really noticed that. And then right at the bottom here, you have what looks like there's supposed to be hooks, but here, if anything, you're smashing into it, you're going to be well protected right down here going through it. All right, we might as well just look at the bottom since I'm already holding it up. This is where you really see a lot of detail on some of these vehicles. They created a whole transmission system running straight down, and as you can see, this is an actual 6-wheel drive. All right, so you have your transmission here. your rear transmission that are going to spin all your tires all at the exact same time. There's your Hasbro logo there. But looking at this, because this might be something that you do see the bottom of, just you got some wiring, some conduit that's kind of leading to whatever this junction box is. Right over here, a little bit of mechanics right there. So awesome, awesome work right there. I absolutely love that they do stuff like that. Looking at the wheels, they are all the same, but if one breaks, you are absolutely screwed. There is no doubt about it. And even looking back there, you're getting the mechanics. I can tell you after just replacing my brakes, it is nice to see a little detail like that, because this is the type of stuff that you don't see on a car that's just there until you start actually getting into detail and looking at it, right? Over here we got a nice little escape hatch, or maybe this is where they're going to store different ammunition, weapons, stuff like that. So you got your little hinges right there. As you can see how it's going to kind of open. And this is meant to hold it together is what would be my assumption. We got some air vents right there. And once again, looking at the wheels here, you can see where all your lug nuts are actually going to go. That's going to hold this on. And they do a really good job of showing you how much extra support there is, because you want to keep this running pretty well. On the back here, again, just some more mechanics like we've talked about. Now, this here, could you imagine in this day and age that they didn't paint this green and that? Oh my God. But this is where the latches are going to be, so we can open up the tonneau cover. Again, I think it's really nice here. And then as we look at the back here, we get some, I'm not really sure what that is. I always thought those were tail lights. But it looks like you have an axle here. It says stay clear. Look, you got your entrenching tools. Again, this is stuff I never really noticed. All right. So you have, if you need to, hold on. So quickly, I guess I'll mention this. This is a handle, because this is an actual troop carrier. This is how you take it over to Grandma and Grandpa's. You're going to pull this thing out, all right? And then you're able to carry it like so, like that. And I got to say this, over 30 years later, I have no fear of doing that. I don't feel like it's going to break. But as you look at all that detail right there, it looks like it might be like is that maybe an extra axle? But I always thought these were like the tail lights. This here, oh, you know what? This is for the water that it brings in to push it out. I think that this is for the water, that when it takes water in, it pushes the water out. That's why you have this little piece right up here. This would just open up and allow water to flow out, like we've seen on boats and stuff. Very interesting. And then you look down here, the same thing. You've got the same hatch, or a similar hatch that's going to do the exact same thing right down here. You got your axe, you got your hammer, you got your pickaxe, and then you got your small little hatchet right there. These are details that you just, I never really looked at. Here is the case you have a garden and you need to water stuff. No, this is your gas can and some of your tools that are, I guess, going to be kept right there. Now, as for the top here, we have the gun, which is, I wouldn't say a real gun. It looks like a laser gun. Again, telling you that G.I. Joe was not always the most realistic thing. Now, this looks like a canopy, all right, or a hatch. So it should be able to open, and I can tell you there are no figures that are coming through that thing, right? But just giving you a little bit of the detail on here. This up here, these look like two little lights. So you're going to be able to spotlight what you're firing at. Or if you're just looking for, let's say, troops, anything like that. And then you even got the little air vents and everything right there. And then here you're going to have a little bit of the mechanics that are actually going to run this. So even though this is a tonneau cover and you can take it off, you can kind of tell that this would be kind of this is what would be supported. Like, this is the supports that run down the tonneau cover. So I love the fact that they give you supports only here. You don't see it once you take the cover off, which is perfectly fine. But you can see that it's connected there, and it's going to run up here and connect to the support, what would be up there. All right, but the detail on this is real nice, and then they give you just that little bit of camouflage. I'm not sure if that would really protect you, or not protect you, but hide you. Now, the way this thing came off is all you have to do is squeeze a little bit. You can see how it just comes in, and this whole thing just comes right off. Now, on the bottom here, what this is, before anyone asks, when you would actually stand the troops up, this is so their heads don't bounce into each other, and the figures will actually stay up erect. I don't think most people realize that, but that's all that that's there for. When you're having a figure stand up, he's going to be like this. So when you're walking it back and forth to grandma and grandpa's, your aunt and uncles, that's how it's going to stay. Oh my god, I can't believe I restood him up properly. But other than that, there's no other detail. On my original, which is still downstairs, it has my name, Larry F, on there. So I guess it wouldn't get stolen. As for the front, this just lifted up like this. And there is no detail, but here again, as I mentioned, you can see right through it. But there is no detail to it, because really any detail is, you're going to be looking right here. All right, so I would assume this is one of the most lost pieces. That's your steering wheel. Here you have your whole cluster gauge. So here's your dials, all right? Probably your speedometer, your heat, different things like this. This is where you're probably going to have your communications, let you know if anything isn't working. Again, we're talking about the 80s, so I'm not sure how electronically advanced it was. You have your seats. All right, and even here on the sides, they put just a little bit of detail right over here on both sides, and they're not the exact same. All right. Now across here, you can see just how many figures you could carry, and I can tell you at this point, I don't believe that there was this many figures on G.I. Joe side. So this was meant to carry all the characters that you had from from Grandma and Grandpa's house. So probably the most lost thing on this is the seat belts. And I acquired this one, and I really do thank Jason Johns, who thought of me, and he sold this to me many years ago at a great price. So all they're going to do is they're just going to latch in. But this is when you put down the figures, you don't have to worry about them bouncing all over or falling out the back or even falling to the front. And it's actually pretty cool, because all they're doing here is they put little seats so their butts just fit in perfectly. Pegs that are going to hold them in, so it's not just a seat belt. And then you have the dual pegs for the figures that are going to be standing. So we'll take our grunt. Let's take his backpack off and his weapon. And we're going to fit him right in the seat here. Now, it is a lot easier when their knees aren't bent like that. And if you do look, there are pegs. I don't know if you can see it, but there is one peg on that side, so you can actually put the foot in there, so you don't have to worry about them falling either. Now, when you have an issue like this, hey, look, his leg actually stayed up for a second. This was the one, I don't think, yeah, see, his legs are going to collapse. So you have to have their legs straight, and then you can kind of just plug it right in, especially when it comes to this. But all we're going to do is just kind of slide him in right here. In my display, I don't really have a need to have a figure in here, because you can't really see anything in it. All right. Now here we'll take tripwire, and again, be very careful if you are doing something like this. These things will break over time. All right. So if you feel that you can't get those feet in the pegs properly, just don't. Or if you have a stand that it feels like they're not going in, it's probably because the stand was made later. All right, so there you go with that. And then we will take a torpedo, and once again we have to remove Oops, I removed the wrong one. Now again, if you have a figure like this, there's only so much you can do. All right, you're going to be, unfortunately, you're going to be carrying around these, or you can just kind of throw them in there so when you lift it up. Now the backpacks are the same thing. They're kind of in the way. Now you can push these figures a little bit further. So if you lift up the arms, you're going to take the seat belt. Now I will say this, if you have more figures sitting down and standing up, there's less chance of them moving around. So there you go. Now if I want to put this on, I apologize. This thing is large, so I'm going to push that down like this. And then you kind of just push that backpack out of the way. I think it should fit. And then now you have it. So if everything I said is true, you can see looking in there, you see how his head is sitting up right up there. It's right in between these little notches. He's sitting there perfectly fine. His backpack is up. And now we can lift it up like so, and you're able to carry all your figures. Again, stuff like this, you just kind of have to put in a baggie, make sure you don't lose it. And then if we pop this thing off, there you go. Nothing's moved out of place. He's perfectly how they were wanted to, or how they're supposed to be. Now, I really wish they would have made it so this was backwards compatible, because I always like to carry it. I always liked it like this. I always liked having the gun at the back for some reason, but then there was this big, large gap. Now, this day and age, I'm sure I could figure out a way, maybe I will, to customize it so I can have one with it backwards like this and fill in this gap. Gun Bunny Customs, where you at? Can you make something for me? But you had this gap here, which, let's be honest, Cobra is never going to be able to sniper through that, but a real sniper would probably be able to peg off a driver pretty easily. So anyway, there you go. That is your G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, APC. I love this for being such a basic vehicle. I thought this was a lot of fun. And again, you could take it through the dirt. You could take it through the grass with these big old wheels. Again, I guess I forgot to mention, you look at the tread. This is how they love to do their treads. The vamp was, or not the tread, the treads on the wheels, the vamp, the stinger. This is just how they were made. But it all gives it nice depth and detail. Oh, you know what? I forgot to show off this side. So this side here is the same thing. This is for water, I think, to flow out, right? So your water would flow out, so nothing's actually getting filled in there. There's your first aid kit, and then your door. See, sometimes I get a little confused. I move a little bit too quick, so 16 minutes into this, I move a little too quick. Anyway, there you go. Thank you for watching this. All right, so there you go. That is your APC. There's really not too much to it, but there's a good amount of detail on this, and a lot of detail that I never noticed. So again, I noticed a lot, but when you look at it as an adult, you're like, wow, that's what that is, and that's what this is. And that's why I love doing this stuff, man. It takes you to another place. You got to see what the designers were doing, what was going through their mind. Maybe a lot of them were military guys. I mean, look at that. Even on the bottom, just all that detail that just kind of sat right there. So anyway, please tell me if you have a story about this. I would love to hear it, okay? Again, maybe this is how when you went over your cousins, you carried all your Joes. Or maybe he came over with all his Joes and Cobras in this thing because Mom said, you know what? You can only take one vehicle and a few figures. But he knew he could pack a whole bunch of figures in this. So it's kind of a way that he could get things over without getting yelled at. So anyway, tell me a story if you have it. But before we do, please take a second, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I drop this type of video. But don't go anywhere because you're like, hey, who did you have drive him? Well, I'm going to have him right up here. And that is Falcon Glider Grunt because I don't have a Falcon Glider. And down here will be the playlist of all the G.I. Joe Real American Hero classic reviews that I've done.